Good morning, and welcome to Making Sense of It. This program is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory, where each week we have a certified member to tell us about some of the concepts of Dr. Glasser and reality therapy and choice theory and how they affect their life, and how that you could begin to see, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I could use that too. So, welcome. And our speaker today is Andrea Bales, and she has spoken several times and just been. I go back and look at reviews or previews when people look at it again, and it happens. It keeps going. The numbers keep going up. Anyway, today Andrea is going to be talking with us about the test of time. So, welcome everyone. That Andrea, welcome. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.
And yeah. So I guess you're going to tell us all about the test of time.
I hope I am. That's the plan. Who knows? Once I start talking, I don't know what'll happen, but I've got some notes to try to keep me on track.
Okay, well, we're ready when you are. So
all right. Well, I'm gonna, I do have a little slideshow that will help also guide me and help us all follow along. Okay. Very good. So I appreciate you coming today. I'm going to talk about what I call some universal truths and their correlation to choice theory and reality therapy principles. Maybe hopefully give you some ideas for practical application. And I think if we have time, Mona likes to save a few minutes for some Q&A. I know that even an hour is a valuable chunk of your time, and I really appreciate your interest in my ramblings or musings, whatever. I am a big picture thinker, and I like to make connections between concepts that I already believe and are just a part of my being, and those that are newer to me or those that I may be hearing about for the first time. And when Mona invited me to speak, I recalled a recent talk that I shared as guest speaker at a spiritual center here in Fort Wayne. And as I was preparing for that, I noticed how congruent my content was with choice theory principles. So I've kind of rewritten that script a little bit to share with you. And I hope to correlate the choice theory principles and what I call universal truth. And I'm guessing that none of what I'm going to share with you this morning is going to be mind-blowing, but I'm hoping that you might assess the information and make your own connections that can be helpful for you personally, or probably more likely those that you teach and counsel. So I like the term universal truth because these concepts seem to apply to all places and times, transcending the state of the tangible and physical universe. So I'm going to share 3, maybe 4 today. I have no idea how many there are, but we don't have time for me to talk forever. So I consider each of these to be true no matter when, no matter where, no matter what, and I consider them to be non-negotiable. I honestly believe that most of us are interested, especially choice theory people, interested in living in a world which is more deeply rooted in these truths and in learning how to apply them, and knowing that that can bring a sense of peace and well-being to our lives. So truth number 1, there is no lack. We live in an abundant universe. I don't know if any of you, like me, have been fascinated by the recent images from the new James Webb Space Telescope. Each of these dots in this picture is a galaxy. And this is just one little, picture in the entire universe, billions and billions of galaxies. And just in our own Milky Way galaxy, there are more than 100 billion planets. The numbers to me are just, they're staggering, just nearly incomprehensible. That to me just by itself proves what an abundant universe we live in. And then if I want to kind of bring it down a little bit, consider that all the English literature that has ever been written, that ever will be written, used just 26 letters. All music ever composed, ever will be composed, is from variations of only 7 musical notes. Yet, as humans, we seem to perceive lack pretty much everywhere. There's never enough time. There's never enough money. There's never enough sleep. There are never enough true friends. There are never enough true love. There's never enough dogs. Or for Mona, not enough cats. But thankfully, the truth is that whatever lack we perceive, we can bring into our lives by giving away that same thing. So if you're with me on the concept of an abundant world and can believe that indeed there is no lack, there's a way we can tap into all of this abundance. And choice theory practitioners understand how closely our behaviors are related to our happiness. So we can choose Glasser's helpful versus harmful habits, or connecting versus disconnecting behaviors. If you are in need of a friend, be a friend. If you're in need of money, donate to a worthy cause. If you're grumbling about gas prices, fill up somebody else's tank. Need a job? Recommend someone else for their perfect position. Short on time? Volunteer. Would you love for someone to listen to you? Ask someone a question and then stick around for the long answer. Chronic health issue? You can pray for someone else's healing, or drive them to a doctor's appointment, or thank a healthcare worker. So the truth is, when we behave in ways that are kind and loving towards others, days will magically open up on your calendar, and unexpected checks come in the mail, and things fall into place in our favor. The right people show up in our lives. It's certainly difficult sometimes to act in kind and helpful ways, especially when our loved ones are being less than kind and loving from our perspective, of course. But when we are consistently acting from a kind and loving place, we find more kindness and love in our world. That's just the truth. So I just suggest that anyone that you're trying to help or counsel or teach, you might suggest to them to try giving away exactly what they believe they are lacking. So truth number 2 is perception. Perception is everything. And again, choice theory practitioners know that our filters determine whether we perceive something as good or bad, and if that something is going to throw our scales off balance. And so I found this great story from an Arabic legend that I would like to share. A young man was traveling through the desert, and he came across a spring of this beautiful crystal clear water. And the water was so pure and delicious that he filled his leather canteen to the brim so he could bring some back to a tribal elder who had been a favorite teacher of his. After the 4-day journey home, he offered the water to the elder, who took a long, deep drink. He smiled and he thanked his former student for the delicious water. The young man returned to his home with a happy heart, knowing he had given that gift to his teacher. Later that day, the elder let another student taste the water. That student spit it out and he wiped his mouth and he said, "That is terrible. That's just awful water." And apparently over the 4 days of travel in the old leather skin, the water had become stale. And the student challenged his teacher and he said, "Master, that water was barely drinkable. Why did you pretend to like it?" And the teacher replied, "You only tasted the water, whereas I tasted the gift."
Mm-hmm.
The water was simply the container for an act of loving kindness. So despite appearances, circumstances, or the outer forms, the tribal elder in this story was clearly able to perceive the spirit of the gift and the love from which that gift came. And he was able to be grateful when he easily could have been ungrateful, and was able to experience and perceive gratitude even when the circumstances were distasteful. So, I want to share my favorite perception slide. I'm sure you, as choice theory practitioners, you maybe have seen every perception slide there is, but I just want to show you my favorite one. And of course, I'm a dog lover, so I gotta share this one. Remember 2000? Yes, it was awful, the worst year of my life. And the dogs are having the same conversation. And he says, "Yes, my humans spent every day with me. It was the best year of my life." And because I taught teenagers and young adults, I often shared this one of Prince William. And I put that slide up and they all, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." And then I showed them this.
To see the real picture.
The real picture. So, the perception is different in the first picture, for sure. And I know you have probably all seen the shower curtain slide. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I won't. Okay, so I'm not gonna show that, but I thought just in case. Okay, so our outlook on perception affects how we react to everything and everyone, as you know. And in the CT world, and actually in many in many spiritual, religious, and philosophical traditions, it is taught that the more we try to see the good, the more good we will see. Wayne Dyer is one of my favorite authors, and he says, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change.
Mm-hmm.
So truth number 3 then is that happiness does not make us grateful, but rather gratefulness makes us happy. And this, I guess the power of the practice of gratefulness is what I want to emphasize. We develop gratitude as we practice it, just like any other personal growth or spiritual capacity. We only become grateful through our own intention. Gratefulness is about, I call it being full of greatness in our hearts by using our perceiving power of faith and free will, so we can witness and acknowledge and embrace good where we see it. In our human experience, it's often easy, and Mona and I were talking about this earlier, to focus on what we perceive may be missing in our lives. But I like to remind myself that what it might be like if I awoke tomorrow morning with only the things for which I was grateful today. That'd be pretty scary. So I guess the most amazing gift we have, I believe, is the power to change our habits of thinking. And we know, everybody here knows, Glasser's total behavior model. The thinking and the doing are the two components that we have quite a bit of control over. So I still just find it amazing that each one of us has the ability to control or direct our thinking, we'll say. I would often challenge my students. I would say, we cannot consciously hold two opposing thoughts at the exact same time. And, I would get the eyebrow, like, really? So I would say, I'll wait, and you try, I'll wait right here, and you try to hold two different thoughts at the same time. So they then agree with me that no, they cannot do that. So we know that research even shows that we are happier and healthier when we choose particular thoughts and practice gratitude on a regular basis. And it doesn't even have to be a difficult or time-consuming practice. The German theologian Meister Eckhart, I don't know if any of you have read any of his work, but he said, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. So I think, Mona, we have some more time, don't we? Can I talk about truth number 4? I feel like I'm talking really fast. So truth number 4 is actually really close to truth number 3, as all of the universal truths, in my opinion, are really connected. Nothing can bring us as much pain as our own thoughts. My maternal grandfather was a very simple man. He lived a very simple life, but he was very wise. And when I would get my young self all tied up in knots, worrying about this and that and every other thing, he'd say, now, Andy, don't be banging your shin on a stool that ain't there. And I still have to remind myself of that. And it's a good it's a good memory, of course, but also really darn good advice. I really enjoy reading and studying about the energetic quality of our thoughts, and I'm talking, quantum physics stuff. Our thoughts, like everything else in the universe, vibrate at particular frequencies. And we are all familiar with the physical and emotional effects of unpleasant thoughts. What goes on, again, Glasser's total behavior model. Of course, we can't stop thinking any more than we can stop digesting our food after we eat. But we know, as we just discussed earlier, that we can consciously direct our thoughts. And when we choose to habitually think more positively, it generates, obviously, more positive feelings, and also then more pleasant emotional and physiological outcomes, results. I teach a practice of using denials and affirmations, which are two great expressions of polarized energy. So we consciously deny illogical beliefs. Tip of the hat to Albert Ellis, American psychologist. Beliefs that distort reality and lead to self-defeating behavior. And we replace them with positive, life-affirming statements. It's been said that opportunity dances with those who are already on the dance floor. And so I think when we put ourselves in that flow of positive, affirming consciousness, instead of wallowing in self-defeating and negative thoughts, then we're more likely to manifest coincidences and synchronicities and opportunities that work for our highest good. If I have time, I guess I don't. Okay, I'll just close then with this last story. This is an idea for a great personal practice that may help us live and teach these truths as we seek to live more fulfilling lives. And I believe that you will recognize its alignment with choice theory, as it's related to our habits of thinking and doing, the two front wheels in Glasser's total behavior model. So not long ago, a friend of mine sent me a story of an 87-year-old man who, during an interview, talked about living through polio, diphtheria, Vietnam protests, major personal losses, and then all that came along with COVID and the pandemic. And he was asked if 2020 had been a particularly challenging year, and he said no, that he had learned long ago not to see the world through printed headlines. And I like to change, that was a direct quote, but I'm thinking he's perceiving the world through, he chose not to perceive the world through printed headlines. He said, I choose to see the world through the people who surround me. And then I write my own headlines. So he said, so then he starts describing his own headlines. Husband loves wife today. Family drops everything to come to grandma's bedside. And then he patted the hand of the interviewer and he continued, old man made new friend today. And I wept when I first read that story, and I thought, how wonderful, his attitude and his perception, and how he chooses to direct his thoughts and behavior. And I thought, I'm adding that to my own personal growth toolbox. So I thought today that my headlines might say, small group of choice theory practitioners agree Glasser philosophy stands the test of time.
Yes.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That was very insightful. And yeah, just beautiful. So the four that you talked about is there is no lack. There is no lack. And a lot of
it's well, like everything in Glasser's work, simple but not easy. Just when you look at those photographs from the telescope, one is just more awesome than the next. But even breaking it down into all the music written from 7 notes, all the English literature from 26 letters. That's, how, that's amazing.
Right, right. And so when you take those basic elements and use them again and again and again,
Right.
it just expands exponentially.
Right. And it seems we have the idea that everybody wants a piece of the same pie without realizing the pie will expand.
Exactly.
The pie will continue to get bigger. We're not fighting over finite resources.
Yeah, we really all want the same thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is happiness, which is
yes.
which is enough.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
We know people that have quite a bit who are not happy, right?
So that in itself is not the criteria.
Right. Right.
It's the stuff itself.
Yeah.
And then looking at our perception and how that we see basically what we want to see.
And we can choose to look at something different. Have you ever seen that? It's a cartoon, it's a graphic where there's a bus and there's a man sitting on either side, looking out their respective windows. And on one side, he's just looking straight into a darkened mountain side, just a rock. And the other man is looking at a beautiful landscape with sunshine and trees and water, but yet this man is still glued to the side of the bus that's facing the rock, when all he would have to do is, just turn to look the other way.
Yeah, change your perception, change your direction.
Yes.
Change. Yeah.
And then choose to look at something else. Yes.
Yeah. Not only do thoughts produce things, but gratitude manifests contentment.
Yeah.
And
we usually think that we have to have stuff to be happy. What is that? We do things to have what we want so we can be happy. But it's backwards. If we're happy, we will, do the things so we will have all that we need.
Right. And then the thoughts that you were getting there and the headlines and so forth, that we need to practice. And practice is where we actually can feel those thoughts moving within.
Yeah, it's really not this was a big lesson for me, because in my arrogance, I just thought if I just know this stuff, that's good. But we have to practice it. We have to practice it. And not only does that help it really become a part of our identity, it usually involves sharing with others. And it's that cooperation. Well, doesn't Glasser say every issue is a relationship issue? We are going to grow through our practice with others.
Right.
Yeah.
And to realize that practice becomes permanent.
Yes. Yeah.
So watch what we're practicing so that we can become permanently loving and kind, as opposed to permanently an old grump.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to close this out for the airways, and those of you that are live here with us will have some off airways discussion. So thank you very much, Andrea. We appreciate this. And
thank you.
And many blessings to everyone here. And so next Wednesday.
All righty.